Vice Chair, would you like us to begin the housekeeping comments?
Thank you for participating in today's meeting. If attending in person, please do not connect to Zoom or teleconference while in the room, and please silence all devices. If translation is provided, click on the globe at the bottom of your screen to select either English or Spanish. Public comment will be taken after each item. If you're in the auditorium and wish to comment, please use the iPads located in the lobby or complete a blue speaker card as available. If you need assistance, please find a South Coast AQMD employee. Speakers may be limited to a total of 3 minutes or less for all agenda items. Times may be shortened to ensure all speakers can be heard. A countdown timer will be displayed on the screen for each public comment. More time will be allotted for Spanish translation that is not simultaneous. For questions or issues on making a public comment, please call the public advisor at 909-396-2432. That's 909-396-2432. Please adhere to the speaker time limit and treat others with courtesy, civility, and respect. Failure to do so can result in your mic being muted or you being removed from the meeting. Be aware that this meeting is being recorded. By participating, you authorize recording of audio and visual content presented during the live event and consent to subsequent use of the recording in the public domain by South Coast AQMD.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the hybrid legislative committee meeting of the South Coast Air Quality Management District. It's Friday, October 10th. It's 9 o'clock right now. This meeting is officially called to order. Maria, would you please do a roll call?
Good morning.
Morning.
Mayor Locke Dawson, absent. Supervisor Hackman. Vice Mayor Olmos.
Here.
Supervisor Perez is absent. Councilmember Rahman, absent. Councilmember Caccioti.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Maria. First item on our agenda, action discussion items, is update on state legislation approved or at the governor's desk. Carlos Gonzalez, Assistant Deputy Executive Officer, Legislative, Public Affairs, and Media. Carlos, please. God bless you.
Yeah, good morning, Chair and board members. I want to take a moment to provide a quick update on where things stand in Sacramento. The state legislature is now on break following the end of session, and Governor Newsom has until October 13 to sign, veto, or allow bills to become law without his signature. We're now in the final stretch where governor's decisions will determine which measures move forward and which does not. I'm happy to share that one of our key bills supported by South Coast AQMD and sponsored by CAPCOA, AB 471 by Assemblymember Hart, has been signed into law. The bill ensures fair compensation for single county air district board members and supports their ongoing engagement in clean air efforts. It is a positive step for regional air quality governance and for districts to serve our communities. I also want to highlight another important legislative bill, SB 415 by Senator Eloise Reyes, which serves as a cleanup legislation for AB 98 from Carrillo in 2024. As you recall, AB 98 originally imposed unfunded monitoring requirements for South Coast AQMD and other districts. We worked closely with Senator Reyes to secure amendments that narrowed the scope of those requirements and, importantly, secure related funding to support the work. SB 415 has been signed into law by the governor and will continue to work with the legislature and CARB in 2026 to pursue additional clarifications around reporting requirements. On the other side, we are continuing to closely monitor SB 34 by Senator Richardson, a bill that we strongly oppose. We've communicated our concerns clearly and continue to advocate for a veto. To summarize, the legislature is on recess. The governor's deadline is October 13, and we're watching the final set of bills actions very closely. We have seen 471 and SB 415 signed into law, and we remain engaged as we await the governor's decision on SB 34. Thank you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Carlos, thank you. Well done, staff. Kurt, Vice Mayor, any questions? No questions from the board. Committee members. Wayne, is there any public comment?
No one has their hand raised, Vice Chair.
We'll give you a minute to raise your hand online. I see nobody in the auditorium. And if nobody has their hand raised, we'll move on. Great work. Item number 2, 2026. These two need a motion. 2026 State Legislative Guiding Principles. Philip Crabb, Senior Public Affairs Manager, LPAM. Philip, welcome and go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. Included in the committee packet are the proposed South Coast AQMD State Legislative Guiding Principles for 2026. They provide a broad set of policy and funding principles that will allow staff to work quickly and efficiently in line with board guidance in Sacramento. This set of guiding principles is similar to last year's with minor updates and adjustments. Among other things, the principles focus on protecting public health and facilitating attainment of state and federal clean air standards by protecting and increasing air quality funding, protecting South Coast AQMD authority, and promoting the development and deployment of the cleanest commercially available infrastructure, equipment, and vehicle technologies. Staff recommends approval of the 2026 State Legislative Guiding Principles. Thank you.
Thank you, Philip. Supervisor, any comments or questions? Vice Mayor? None? Okay, is there any public comment on this item? I see none in the auditorium. Staff, any online?
No.
Give you a moment. See none. Kurt?
Mr. Chair, I don't know if it's easier if I could move, because federal is about basically the same thing. If I move items 2 and 3, if you want to take public comment on 3.
Is there any public comment on item number 3 online? I see none in the auditorium. Vice Mayor, do you need a staff report on item number 3?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
So I moved items 2 and 3.
Items 2 and 3 moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Vice Mayor Olmos. Roll call, please.
Mayor Lock-Dawson, absent. Supervisor Hagman, Vice Mayor Olmos,
Yes.
Supervisor Perez, absent. Councilmember Rahman, absent. Councilmember Caccioti.
Here.
Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you. Lisa Tanaka, our Deputy Executive Officer. We missed you, Lisa, but we know you're right there. Next item is number 4, update and discussion on federal legislative issues. Jed Dearborn. Jed? Good morning.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee, for the opportunity to present today. So as we are all aware, the government has been in a shutdown for 10 days and negotiations remain at a standstill. Although the House did pass a continuing resolution to keep the government open on September 19th, the Senate has yet to pass the House bill or other alternative. As of right now, the Senate's weighing 2 competing proposals. Number 1, the House passed clean CR to keep the government open at current levels through November 21. And 2, a bill championed by Democrats to pair the clean CR with an extension of enhanced Affordable Care Act tax credits. Despite 6 attempts to pass each of these proposals, neither option has been able to garner the bipartisan support needed to advance to enactment. As of today, the negotiations are stalled out. Republicans are demanding that Democrats vote first to pass the CR before they can enter into bipartisan negotiations on the ACA credits, and Democrats are refusing to go along with that plan. Neither side is showing any movement, and a path forward that provides each negotiating position a win is pretty hard to see at this point. There's even conflicting reports about the level of negotiations that are taking place. The president makes regular social media posts claiming that negotiations are underway, whereas the Democrats are claiming that Republicans are refusing to communicate in any substantive way. In any case, the longer the shutdown goes on, agencies will run out of emergency funding and more services will lapse. So the effects of the shutdown will start to feel more acute to the American people in pretty short order. And as these effects begin to ripple out, in the near future, there may be a lot more pressure on members of Congress and the White House to cut a deal and reopen the government. That concludes my report. I would be happy to take any questions.
Jed, thanks. We'll hold the questions till we finish with legislative consultants. Next is Dal. You're here for Gary.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Chairman Caccioti and members of the board. Just to echo what Jed said, the furlough notices went out yesterday to the EPA staff. So their carryover funding lapsed as of October 9th. So it's expected, according to their contingency plans, that about 11% of all of EPA staff will continue to work during the shutdown. And, that's a 15,000 member EPA staff. So only about 1,600 or so will remain on the job performing essential services during the shutdown. That does not include some of the programs that we are most focused on, including TAG, DERA, 103, 105, and CPRG. So with that, it's unclear how the shutdown concludes, but EPA is starting to feel the pain with staff reductions as of yesterday. With that, I'll conclude the report and happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Dal. Next, Mark. Welcome, Mark Kadish.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'll just add to our report that if we do get past the shutdown and reopen, that there's really not a lot of must-pass legislation that has to be done this year. Interestingly, the Senate did vote yesterday to do something. They voted on a National Defense Authorization Act bill, which did pass with a number of amendments, and that sets up a conference with the House. That is considered one of the few must-pass things to do other than these appropriations bills. The reconciliation bill took care of some provisions in the Farm Bill, and it's expected that others would probably be taken care of in whatever deal is agreed to. And then looking forward, probably not this session, but early next session, we would imagine that Congress will begin looking at the Surface Transportation Bill, which expires at the end of the next fiscal year, September 30th, 2026. So that will be on our radar. But as Dal and Jeb have indicated, until we get past the shutdown, there doesn't appear to be much else that they're going to be able to get done through the end of this year. So that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Committee members, Supervisor, Vice Mayor, any questions for our consultants in Washington? Supervisor says no. Vice Mayor? No questions? Just a quick question, maybe Wayne, from the ex-EPA Region 9 Administrator. You know the staffing there, and the Dallas said they're hurting, they're in pain. How does this affect clean air? How does this affect us? Our effort to reduce pollution. Just maybe a few thoughts briefly.
It's really difficult right now for EPA staff, both at the regional and the headquarter level. We actually just got back from DC and we heard a number of different aspects. Part of what we had heard is that people working on CPRG issues are exempt. I don't know if that's true, but if it is true, that's good news for us because that means the grants are continuing to be addressed and looked at. I haven't heard anything from our staff otherwise. We've also heard recently from EPA in Region 9 that I think I've shared with the board that we do actually have EPA staff using our offices, and EPA wants to continue that. So we're looking at a 6-month extension. They are consolidating or working on expanding their office space in downtown LA. So we think it'll probably take them about 6 months to get that through. Whether or not that work is able to continue, I think that's probably one of the things that would actually be paused. From a morale perspective, morale is pretty adversely affected at this point. And I think we're very fortunate, though, to have good relationships. So we're able to at least reach out and advise them of the issues. But as far as affecting clean air, EPA as a whole is dialing back on its enforcement. I do want to note an exception. There has been outreach from the Office of Enforcement with regards to some of the refineries, and we've heard of late that on a national basis, EPA may be looking at some of those issues, particularly as it relates to fuel pricing, national security, things like that. So that may be a reason for their continued investments in there. I hope that is the case, that they're looking at those. Obviously, we just had an issue with the refinery that we're looking at very closely, and are continuing to work with all of our partners across the spectrum at the federal, state, and local level.
Thank you, Wayne. Lisa, did you want to add anything to that? Tanaka?
Chair, no, I think Wayne summarized it all. I mean, we're just hopeful that they can come to an agreement soon so everyone can get back to work.
Thanks, Lisa. Is there any public comment in this item? Oh, sorry, go ahead. Oh, sorry, Vice Mayor, sorry, go ahead, please.
No worries. Hey, question for staff or anybody that can answer this. So would this be affecting also any AQMD funding for future?
It's a possibility. Yeah, some of the tag grants that we're working on, I think some of the 103, 105, that's funding that we use for our monitoring equipment. Everything that we've been doing so far, we've been getting our funding. And I think, Sujata in finance checks all of the portals twice a day. We are making sure that we dot every I, we cross every T to make sure that there's no reason for any of our funding to be cut. So at this point, it's hard to tell.
Vice Mayor, does that answer your question?
It did. I'm sorry, my mic was off, but thank you, Wayne. Thank you for that.
And Wayne, just some of the acronyms we use, the CPRG and the TAG, what do those stand for our public?
Sorry, I'm
And board members like myself who
CPRG.
forget.
yeah. Climate Pollution Reduction Grant. So the $500 million grant that we have is under that program.
Good.
The TAG, I'm going to get this one, Targeted Airshed Grants
That's the one.
proposal. Those are sort of congressional, I'll call it a carve out. I'm not sure that's what they really are. Well, that's what they really are, but I'm not sure the appropriate name.
Okay, thanks. Was there any public comment? I see no public comment in the audience here. Any online? Not online.
No one online.
Okay, great. Then we'll move on to item number 5, update and discussion on state legislative issues. And is Mr. Quintana here?
Right here.
David, go ahead, please.
Hi. Yeah, I would just like to update the board on some moves that have just happened in the climate space in the governor's office. Lauren Sanchez, who was the senior advisor to the governor on climate matters, she has now been sworn in as the chair of CARB, as Leanne Randolph has retired. And taking her place already is Sarah Swig. Sarah Swig is the new senior climate advisor for the governor. And she comes from serving with U.S. Senator Alex Padilla, and prior to that, former Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
Great. Thank you, David.
Thank
Next is Ross Buckley. Ross.
Good morning, Chair and members. I want to provide a brief update on the state budget. For the month of August, the California saw about a $1.7 billion surplus above expectations come in. This was largely driven by a over $1 billion personal income tax revenues. So while this was a promising sign and a promising update for the state of California, the month of October will actually be a very important update when it comes to the state budget, given the extension for the LA wildfire folks being next week, October 15th. That will be a critical update for the state revenues. Given that there's a little delay in when we know how much the state has brought in, will likely be December before we have an understanding, which, the governor has his January update, which is just right around that corner. So it'll be a little bit tight, but we'll have a better picture of what the state budget looks like going in to January there. Lastly, I also want to provide an update on the governor's action. As Carlos mentioned earlier, the governor has until Monday at midnight to sign or veto any bills that have reached his desk. To this year, he has signed about 600 measures and vetoed 55. By my count, he has less than 375 bills left on his desk to act on. In fact, he signed a bill about an hour ago. They put out a press release in, so it's happening in real time as we speak. Historically, the governor has had about an 86 to 14% signature to veto rate, so 86% of the bills that he gets get his signature. Currently, his veto rate as we stand today is around slightly less than 10%. So we'll see if his kind of veto rate picks up late in the session as he moves to consider the last remaining bills, which is generally typical. That completes my verbal report, and happy to answer your questions.
Thanks, Russ. We'll come back. And finally, Paul Gonzalez. Paul, welcome and go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. Great to be with you this morning. I do want to provide the committee with a brief update on the race for California's next governor. So the primary election for our governor will be on June 2nd, 2026, with the top two advancing to the November 3rd general election. There are a number of high-profile candidates who have already dropped out of the race so far. Those include former State Senate President Pro Tem and Assembly Speaker Toni Atkins, who withdrew her candidacy last month. Lieutenant Governor Eleni Konolakis, who withdrew her candidacy, is now running for state treasurer instead. And then State Treasurer Fiona Ma also dropped out of the race. With those three out, it's still a very crowded field. The remaining 12 candidates include, for the Democrat side, include former U.S. Representative Katie Porter, former California Attorney General and former U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary Javier Becerra, former Speaker of the Assembly and former Mayor of Los Angeles, Antonio Villaraigosa, former Assembly member and current Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tony Thurman, former State Controller and Democratic Party Vice Chair Betty Yee, former State Assembly member Ian Calderon, who most recently announced there's an American businessman, Stephen Klobeck, as well as about 5 other candidates. The Republican Party, on the other hand, has only 3 candidates. Those include the Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco, commentator and former Fox host Steve Hilton, and a gentleman named Leo Zaki, who also ran in the 2022 recall election of Governor Newsom. So with former Vice President Kamala Harris not deciding to run, it's really created an open, wide open field for the Democrats. There's really no clear front runner yet, and it remains to see what other high-profile Democrats jump into the race, such as United States Senator Alex Padilla or billionaire Rick Caruso, especially now that former Vice President Kamala Harris is out of the race. Unfortunately for the Republican candidates, they do face an uphill battle. California has not elected a Republican governor since Governor Schwarzenegger back in 2006. But because of the top 2 primary system, there is a very good possibility a Republican could appear on the general election ballot in November, especially if the Democratic vote is split between its crowded field. So lots to come on this race, as we still have a little more than a year left before the election. So we will continue to keep you apprised as things progress. And with that, Mr. Chair, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Paul. Supervisor, Vice Mayor, any questions for our state legislative consultants? I was going to ask Kurt, was he in the 86% or the 14% from the governor signing?
You assume that Republican can get a bill to the governor's office, okay?
So I see the committee members have no questions. Just a question maybe for consultants, and staff can also weigh in. As Carlos talked about SB 34. David, Paul, Ross, you got your ear to the ground up there. Any intelligence on what's going on with SB 34 or various lobbying groups pushing the governor on that, pro or con? Any thoughts, comments?
I'll go first. Just very briefly, the EJ folks are really doing a good job of continuing to work the grassroots, get the message into the governor's office to veto the bill. So I know that they are doing well. I know that PMA is also still working very, very hard to get this bill vetoed. I don't know how I feel about Lauren going to CARB, because she's not going to be whispering in his ear, but maybe she will be whispering in his ear just a little further away. Because we know from our calls with her, she wasn't a big fan of the bill. But God, getting into this guy's mind at this point is a little tough. Paul, Ross, do you guys want to add anything to that?
No, nothing that I think that summarizes it well. I think it's a 50-50 guess at this point. It's really hard to read this governor's crystal ball. But like David said, PMA, PMSA, Enviro groups, we're all working hand in hand to try and really push the governor to veto this. So with Lauren out, adds a little bit of complexity, but we'll continue to keep pushing. And as soon as we know, we'll get you an update.
Thank you. Ross, anything?
Yeah, I would just agree with the first 2 folks. And as I mentioned, typically governors have signed a lot of bills in the early stage of the signing period and then left some of the vetoes to the end. So I know as we are, about 4 days left, our hopes are abound at any time for any of these bills. And we're trying to read the tea leaves here. But, I do think that the folks in advocacy work that everyone's done, including AQMD staff and the electeds, have done a good job on this.
Staff, any comments to follow up? No, Carlos? Okay. Is there any public comment on this item? I see none in the auditorium. Susan, Wayne, any online? Okay, wonder where our friends are. No, none online. Okay, we'll move on. Other business, Vice Mayor, Supervisor? See no hands. We'll move on from other business. Public comment period, a chance for the public to comment on anything that's within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Legislative Committee. Is there any public members in the auditorium who would like to comment during public comment at this moment or online? See none in the auditorium. Give you a moment online. No hands raised. Okay, final item is number 8. Next meeting date is November 14th, the second Friday at 9 a.m. And this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Here, Vice Mayor.